Alright guys, welcome back. GM Light here. Today we're going to be talking about the sequel to the Boogeyman, Boogeyman 2. The sequel is about a young woman that's attempting to find the cure to her phobia of the Boogeyman by checking herself into a mental health facility, only to realize too little too late that she's now helplessly trapped with her own greatest fear. And kind of following suit with that first movie, I think that the ideas of this movie are a lot better than the execution of the movie. I have a little bit of nostalgia with this movie. I have some memories of watching it at my cousin's house when I was like 9. It was playing on TV and I remember catching some of it, but I guess I didn't catch the end because I don't remember it at all. And it completely shades my memory and perspective of this movie just very differently. It completely changed my perspective of what this movie was. I'm going to be diving into some kind of spoilery plot details, so if you care, I guess hop off. But I kind of want to go a little bit deeper. There's some things I want to talk about that I don't think that I could talk about with revealing some plot details. So I'll just get into it. But right off the bat, when I was rewatching this movie, when I was kind of tracking along with it, I was very baffled by the lack of supernatural aspects with it. I thought it was kind of weird. It felt like I was like, this is supposed to be a supernatural entity, which is how I preferred the Boogeyman to be honest. I think it's a lot scarier that way, grounded in the folklore and everything, hiding in closets and stuff, just a monster. But I remember just watching this for a while being like, this is pretty much just a slasher dude in a hoodie. I kind of missed that idea of the Boogeyman hiding in the shadows and just being this being of unfathomable power. But no, he's just kind of a guy that represents the Boogeyman, embodies him. But what I will say as far as positives, I do like this idea of the Boogeyman being more grounded, being this person that uses people's fear against them, and that's how he kills them. You also have a very hard R rating this time going around. You have some really gnarly kills. One that I specifically remember being so fucked up about when I was younger was Harley, where he uses the vice to open up the dude's heart and rip it out. Absolutely nasty, great practical effects, really disgusting. It's good stuff to see in a movie like this. On top of that, I'm always happy to see Tobin Bell in a movie, regardless if he gives a shit or not, which I kind of feel like he doesn't in this movie. He seems a little bit disinterested in being there. He phoned in his performance a little bit, but still just seeing him there, seeing him in the mix, always not going to complain about hearing that voice. But I ultimately think that this movie would be a lot better served as almost like an anthology Boogeyman movie and just completely cut ties to the original, because it's very weird to think that the first movie happened in the same universe as this movie. They really just don't jive with each other and they don't really matter to each other. I don't think that they needed to include the fact that the main character from the first one killed himself. Just kind of negates the ending of the first movie where he has this victory and overcomes the Boogeyman, and then this psychologist comes around and he just makes him kill himself. That's pretty lame. I also just hate when sequels do that, when they have those off-screen deaths of the main character from the last movie, their first movie, especially Two in a Way, just so not really Boogeyman related. He survived all that shit and supernatural things from the first movie only to get killed because some psychologist was an asshole. That's just a lot for me. But I also think I had a tougher time in the beginning of this movie because, like I said, I went in kind of hating on it because I didn't really realize what it was trying to do, but I do appreciate the take on the character a little bit more now that I actually understood what was going on with the real world aspects and that this is an actual person just using fear on these patients to kill them. It changes my perspective on it because when I was watching it, I thought this is supposed to be a supernatural being, but it's a guy in a hoodie that's stabbing people or, you know, just doing all this other stuff. So having that extra context completely changes my perspective of the movie. He always felt human pretty much the whole time. I don't know if that was intentional. I know they were going for a more grounded aspect to it, but still, just the fact that he did feel human before you even knew that he was just a guy. Before you knew that, all you kind of thought was, man, that's just a lame thing to do, have a guy in a dark hoodie be the Boogeyman. In all honesty, they probably should have just restrained from showing the Boogeyman or anything until maybe the reveal. It's also weird that they did establish in this world that the Boogeyman does exist, so it's almost like the thing that works for it works against it. You have a dichotomy of, you have a good idea of this more realistic take on this character and everything, but then you still shackle it to this universe and this world instead of just going in your own direction. Really weird choice. I don't dig it, but there's things about it that I do think are interesting and a little bit more thought-provoking than the first movie. It's just odd because when I was younger, I viewed it very straightforward. I didn't take any of that other meaning to it, or that it was more realistic. I just didn't understand that or see the ending reveal that it was a guy in a costume. I just thought, hey, this is the boogeyman, he's scary. But you know, that's how you think when you're a kid and you're dumb and you don't really understand what's going on. You're just kind of afraid and just watching the movie as is and taking it at face value. They definitely learned from a few mistakes. I understand why they took a different direction. I'm sure that even though that first movie made a decent amount of money, they still couldn't have ignored the audience reception and knew that they had to do something different. So in making it financially viable, they also kind of piss off the fans of the first movie, who no one is going to be watching Boogeyman 2 if they hated Boogeyman 1. So I'm not really sure why they went there, but it's just a common theme between these first two movies where the execution's way inferior to the concepts. This movie's honestly not terrible. I don't think it's the worst movie ever. It has its entertaining moments. It's got Tobin Bell for one thing. It's got great kills. They upped the R rating and everything. So you got to appreciate that. But at the end of the day, it still has all these problems. It's still not a great movie. And I'm also just not a huge fan of the hospital setting. It just feels a little bit sterile, boring, and they don't do anything way too interesting with it. So I wasn't that into it or engaged in that aspect of the movie. But overall, if you have nothing to do, maybe give it a watch. Maybe you'll get something out of it. I don't know if there's anyone I'd really recommend this movie to be honest, but I'm sure it does have its fans out there. Let me know what you guys think of Boogeyman 2 in the comments section. I'd be interested to hear if any of you have seen this movie. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.